So welcome to this video. This video is placed on YouTube and it is an exact example of what we are doing in this Taming Regex course, so that if you need to have a regex explained to you or you need regex training, please see the description below. You should be able to get a coupon voucher for this regex course that we host on Udemy. So please reach out to us there, or you could put a comment below and we should be able to help you with that too. All of these links are in the description below. So they're in the order that they come in. So every time you see I change a screen or change a thing, you should be able to get the updated one in the description. So please follow along with us and we can go from there. We have looked at dates in this course before, and the dates are quite simple if you're just going to do a basic idea. And the basic idea that you've done before is something like this. And this first part over here is month, and this is an American date. And if you do want to flip this around, we can obviously grab this whole thing. Let's cut that. And the reason why I'm doing this is because in this example that I'm about to do, we're going to use the UK South African date. Day first, month, and then year. But obviously if you're using month first and day, it's going to be similar to that. So let's actually see how this works. So we've got days, and a day can either start with, let's clean up these examples. A day can either start with 03, and then the 12th month, and then let's do the year 2000. You can have the 18th, third month, and let's say the year 2000 again. So that is how it works. So we've got day here, which means that days can be anything from 0 to 3. So if I've got the number 3 there, and I say 12/2000, this is still going to match. So this 0 to 3 is obviously optional. So it's either 0 or 1 of that 0 to 3. So you can either have a single digit one or a multiple digit one. In the month, we can do either 0, 1, and that is optional as well. So either 0 or 1, and goes all the way through to 0, from 0 to 9. So now, if you have done regular expressions before, you will notice that there's a couple of limitations to this. So one of the limitations would be that I can say that under days, I'm going to have a 3, and then under numbers, I can have a 9. And then under months, I can have a 1. And then under here, I could have an 8, for instance, or a 9. And then over here, we can still have the year 2000. And that is not a proper date. This is really just about sort of like getting your mind around how dates work. If you chuck this into, I'm just going to copy this, into this website, and it's not my favorite website because it does, I mean, if you click on login here, it's going to give you an error. If you go to embed on Stack Overflow, it doesn't actually work. But what does work very nicely is if you dump your regular expressions in there, it doesn't like named ranges, so let's remove those. Okay, and you say that your number is going to be 03/12/2000. Let's take out those question marks for the named range there, like that. It says, cool, so that is going to be a match, and then it almost gives you a visual description of this. And it says 1 of 0 to 3, 1 of 0 to 9, then a slash, 1 of that, and then a slash. But my favorite part about this website is this position thing. So if you grab the slider and you move it, what you'll see over here is that that pink line moves down and actually shows you where in your regular expression actually matches. So if you move that and you move that, it shows you exactly where you are looking, and it shows you in the visualization as well. And this is quite useful, especially when you're trying to break down regular expressions from the internet that you found, or if you found something on Stack Overflow and someone says, use this, rather than just trying to figure it out yourself, dump it in here, and you have the ability to do JavaScript, Python, and PCRE. It is not the best website. I mean, there's this other website here called Regexs or whatever. If you dump that in there, you can see exactly the same thing, and it shows you and visualize it exactly how you would want to have it expressed, but doesn't have that little slider that allows you to grab it across. So those are two that are very nice. But let me explain what we're actually going to try and do now. We are going to try and do a regular expression that looks at every single type of date. And this is my thinking behind it. So you can see this obviously as a link. Certain months have different days. So there are 31 days in January, March, May, July, and stuff. Then there are 29 days and 30 days in January, March. So all of them, except for February, have 29 and 30 days. The third one is that there are 29 days for February in a year divisible by 4. So that is the year 2000, 2004, 2020. All of those years have a leap year in it. So that has got 29 days. Then there are 1 to 28 days for every single other month, So it can either be written as 1 or 01, all the way through to the number 28 for every single month. Then, depending on how you're going to have a separator, you can either have a slash or a dot or a dash. And theoretically, it should be the same as the previous separator. You shouldn't have 01 and then a forward slash, 04 and then a dash and then the year 2000, because it just looks weird. If you've got a forward slash between the day and the month, then you should have a forward slash between the month and the year. Under months, we can either represent them as 01 to 12, or January, February, all the way like that. So those are 3-letter representations of the months. And then the years, we can do years either as YY, so just the number 00, all the way through to 4Ys, so that is the year 2000. Because if I said the year was 00, it could either be the actual year 00, the year 1000, the year 1900, the year 2000. You don't actually know, but some people would want to represent it like that. And then what are you looking at in terms of the year? Do you want to go from the year 0 all the way through to the year 9999? Or what kind of limits do you want to put in place? So I think for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to sort of like do a birth date validator. So let's say that they can be the eldest they can be is from 1900, and they can go all the way until 2020 for right now. If you need to say that they need to be older than 18 to visit your website, then take whatever year that you've got. So if we're in 2020, 18 years away from that would be 2002, if my maths is correct. Those are the kind of things that we need to look at. And whenever you're doing a regular expression, please make sure that you break down your thinking. And once you've broken down your thinking, let's now put that into a regular expression tester and start visualizing how this whole thing works. Now what we're going to be looking at is, this is my idea for a regular expression. Now if you are a bit confused by this, that's fine. We're going to go through this step by step. If you don't want to have this step by step and you just want to copy and paste it, that's fine. This is the link for it. Just grab it from that link and you can copy and paste it into your thing. If you'd like to understand how the regular expression works, that's what we're going to look at now. If you look over here, we've got right examples and we've got wrong examples. So the right examples are the 1st of January 2000. And please remember that these are day, month, year. Then we've got 1st of January. So we've got 1/1/2000 instead of 01/01. And we've also got 01 and January like that. And we could also remove the 0 from there. And we've got just the number 1 and January. So all three of those are exactly the same date, but they all are represented differently. We've got the 31st of January. We've got 31st of January. We've got dots in between here. We've got dashes in between there. We've got dashes in between there. And then we've got the 28th of February there, 2001. So all of those are cool. And we go down there. Now, the wrong ones, what you'll notice is this. The 31st of April, and in April there are only 30 days, so that one has broken. If you change this to 30 there, it works now. The 31st of April is wrong. The 29th of February 2001, because it's not a leap year in 2001, it's going to be wrong. And if we change that to 2000 or 2004 or 2008, all of those are perfect. But in 2001, it doesn't work. The 13th of the 13th month won't work. The 30th of February won't work. The 30th of some other thing. So if we type whatever you want in the middle there, February, let's say that's the 25th of February, it won't work. So this won't validate if you type the whole of February in. 32nd of January and the 32nd of January. So none of those work. So based on this, this is my best example of how this regular expression will work. I've tried to go through all the possible variations that I could think of in this thing, so in day, month, and year. If you can think of anything else that is not working, please reach out and we can see if there's something that I've done wrong. But this is the best example. So let's try and break this down now. And it's very long. So let's try and break this down and see if we can actually make this make sense. So let's take this example. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to chuck it into Regexs and paste it in there. And this is where this website starts shining. So this is where you actually see how it's broken down, and you don't even have to understand the regular expressions to see exactly what's happening. So this is the regular expression. Here is the result. And this becomes quite difficult. So let me see if I can zoom out here a little bit. So I've got a little bit more. Okay. So right now the position's at the end, and you see that little pink thing there. So if I drag this one back, you'll see it's a pink thing there. And there's nothing else in any of these other lines, which means that we're actually, in this example, we are flowing through this regular expressions to get this pattern. So if you want to move it around like that, what you'll see is that we are still only on this last one. So if I move it back one more step, we see that we are there. And let's go back a little bit further. And you will see over here that that pink line is in front of the 12 there. And it is saying we're matching up to there. So 03, then a forward slash. So it comes from here and then a forward slash, which is one of those. And then we're over here now. So it doesn't know what's happening yet. So it's saying before the 12, we don't know what's happening. If you go one step further, so we're now inside the 12, we're now in the 1. It says it can only be part of this over here. So the one can be a 1 and the other one can be one of 0 or 2. Previously, you had these options, and previously, before it actually started the 12, it could have been Jan, it could have been February, it could have been everything. So it's a nice way to visualize it. Okay, and we're now going to play around with this, and we're going to come back to this visualization each time to see if it still makes sense to us. So let's break this down and see that this works. So I'm starting this regular expression, and I'm just putting a full stop in there, a period, and I'm going to say update this regex. So now this next example, this next link, you'll find, and if you want to start from where I am, this is how you can start. So I'm going to delete the period, and let's now try and figure this out. So the first thing we have is we have got a 0 and a 1, or a 1, or a 0 and 1, all the way up until 31. So if we're going to do this, we can do a set, and we can say the first set is either 0, 1, 2, or 3. And that is optional. While we're doing this, let's actually start this from the beginning using a caret there and see that that actually works. So we've got 0, 1, 2, or 3. The second one is that we can have the numbers in the set 0 all the way to 9. Okay, and that now matches the days of that perfectly. But we don't know whether or not this is going to work. We don't know if we've got the number 31 or the number 39, if it's actually a good idea. So we're going to break this down a little bit differently. So under the debugX here, we've got 3 different routes. Okay, so we start over here. The first route says, if I've got a number, either 0, which is optional, and then 1 to 9, or I've got 1 as a number and then another number thereafter. Or I've got 2 and then one of these. Then go through this link. We're looking at everything from the first day of the month through to the 28th day of the month. We're going to do 3 different things with alternates between those. So let's start at the beginning here. If we're looking at, we can start from 01 or 02 or 18 or 25. So all of those are perfect numbers. So if we say the first numbers are going to be from, let's say from 0, and then we're going to do from 0 to 9. That will give me 01, 02, 03, all the way up to 09. Okay. Then I can say I want to look at all of the numbers in the teens. So I want to do, it starts with a 1, and then I can do a subset and go 0 to 9. Close that. And then all the teen numbers will come up. And then I can do last alternate, and I can say it's going to start with a 2, and the subset is going to be from 0 to 8. So that will go from 01 all the way through to 28. Now, obviously you could also do things like this. You could also say instead of 0 to 9, you could do \d, and that would be the same thing. Depending on how confident you are with regular expressions, you might want to say, well, I'd rather represent it like this, and I'm going to say 0 to 9. But what you will notice from here is that this over here in the front means that we could also have the date of 00, and that's actually not correct. So I would like to say that this 0 is optional, and this actually doesn't start at 0, this starts at 1. So now what we've got is we've got 01, 02, 18, 25. So now this is the first leg of this. So this is the first leg that says here, start at the beginning, then either go here, so from 0 and then 1 to 9, or the second leg starts in the teen and has a digit behind it, or 0 to 9. And the third one is from 2 till 8. So those are the 3 parts of that. I normally bring out a text editor at this point, just so that I have a copy of this, because if I lose anything, I start getting frustrated. And I normally just copy this across and say this is days. And I go from 01 all the way to date 28. So that is the first one. The second one I'm going to do is I want to do days, and I want to do 29 and 30. And then the last one I want to do is days 31. Okay. So we're going to take all of these and we're going to put them together just now. So in terms of days for 29 and 30, we can say 29 or 30, which means that if I've got 28 up here, it's not going to work. 27 is not going to work. 01 is not going to work. 29 is going to work, and 30 is going to work. So that's perfect. Let's grab that. That's that one. And then obviously days 31 is going to be just the days of 31. So now, the second part of this, here is 01 to 28. This over here is the 29th of February. This over here is the 29th and 30th, and that's the 31st. So if we're looking at this one, we can add one more thing to our notepad, which is days in Feb for a leap year, and that's just going to be a 29. Okay. So now, the second part of this is we have to have different slashes here. Okay, we have to have whatever slashes we want. So the options we have is we either want a /, which, remember, needs to be escaped like that. So that will make a / work. And then if we have a period in between, and if we have a dash, and if you really wanted to, you can add equals. You could add whatever symbol you wanted, but I'm just going to leave with those 3. So that matches those. And then if I do an alternate, and I said \period, that's going to match the period there. And I'm going to say another alternate. And lastly, we have a dash. So that matches those 3 things. So if I grab this now and put this into my notepad, and I'm going to call the separators, that is the function for my separators. The third part is we need to represent the months. Okay, so the months we have here can either be done as a 0 month, so 01, which is January, or 1, which is January, 02, which is February, or 2, but it can also be represented as Jan, Feb, and March. Okay, so let's do that now. So the months can be a 0, which is optional, and then it can be the numbers from 1 to 9. That is going to match 01, 02, 03. Okay. Then we could also have an alternate, and that alternate is going to be anything that starts with a 1, and then the only options for the 1 are going to be 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. Or you could do 0, 2, 2, like that. Okay, and that should match 11 and 12. So now that we've got those, we now have solved this part over here. We've solved that they can have anything there, and we can have all of these. We now need to solve that they can be represented as 3 letters. So let's do an alternate now. So all of these should now work. So if I type Jan, and I type Feb, and I type Mar, and I type April, all of those should now work. So I'm going to grab this, and these are our months. Perfect. Then we would have a separator again. And the last thing we'd do is years. So the question I have for you is, what do you want to do as a year? Do you want to start it from 0? Do you want to end it at the year 9999? Do you want to just say we want to go from 1900 all the way to 2020? So whatever you want to do and whatever works for your verifications and validations, you need to do it like this. I want to say that if they're going to fill in their birth date, year, that is what we're going to do. Now, depending on if someone is going to be born in 2020, they're probably not going to be filling out a form on my website. So you could say, well, the youngest person might be 13 filling it out. So then it would be 2007. So whatever you want to do as yours, you must do that. But let's try and get the thinking behind this first. So I would do it from the number 1. Then I'd have a 9 there, so 1900. And then I would have a range in here of 0 to 9. And then if you wanted, you could do another 0 to 9 like that. And that would match it there. So anything inside here would be 1923 would match, and 1956. All of those would match. If you wanted to make this simpler, you could also do 0 to 9, curly bracket, 2, and that just says we have 2 of those. And if you want to make it even simpler than that, \d, and 2 of those. So whatever you would like to play around with. I'm going to do it like this, so it's easier just to represent it, 0 to 9, so that you know exactly what I'm doing, because I've got 0 to 8s and 0 to whatevers, so it's easier for you to notice. Okay. Second one I'm going to do, so I'm going to do an alternate here, and I'm going to start with a 20 here, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say, what is the highest number that I can possibly have? Well, I can go from 2000, so that's 00, and I can go all the way up to 2020. I can then say the range of this for the first one can be from 0 to 2, so either the year 2000, the year 2010, or the year 2020. And the second one I would do from the year 2000 all the way up to 2009, 2019. But I'd like to stop, and I'd like to say that we can go up until 2007. So that can be from 0 to 7 here, which means that if I say 2009, it's not going to work, and 2010 is not going to work, and 2020 is not going to work, and 2300 is also not going to work. So that's how I would do the years. So let's grab that and put it into our text file. Brilliant. So now that we've got everything simply done, we now need to do some formulas and base things on how this makes sense. So you cannot have 29 days in February if there's no leap year. You can't have 31 days in April because there's only 30 days. Okay, so let's clean this up and let's start putting this whole thing together. So let's start playing with this now. What we're going to do is we're going to break this up into different stages. So based on our debug X here, we've got a couple things. Firstly, we're going to start with this 31. So any month that has a 31 in, we're then going to check what separator they've got. We're then going to apply it to those months. We're then going to look at this separator and say, look from reference 1 and go and look and make sure that's the same as that one. And then from there, we're going to add a year. That's the basic one we're going to start with. So we're going to say the first one is that we're going to start with a 31. We're then going to open up brackets and we're going to put our separators inside there. Copy that, paste that there, and close those brackets. So what you'll see so far is it's matched all of these. So now what we need to do is we need to say what months are we looking at in terms of ones that have 31 days in. So the ones that have 31 days are January, they are March, and all the other ones. So let's go back to our original thinking here. So there's what we're looking at. So 31 are those particular months. So we are now going to do a bracket and we are going to say that 0 doesn't need to be there, so that is optional. And then we have got all of these. So remember how we spoke about these particular months. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm just going to dump that in there. So the particular months we're talking about are these. So it's 1, March is the 3rd, May is the 5th, July is the 7th, August is the 8th. And what we are going to do is just close that right now. And this will be represented as 01 or 03 or 05 or 07. And because this 0 is optional, it is also represented as 1, 3, 5, and 7. All the way up until 8th or August. Now, what you'll notice is that October and December, October is the 10th month and December is the 12th month. So if we start putting that in as 10 or 12, those are not going to match. So we need to do an alternate here. So let's do an alternate. And we're going to say it starts with a 1 this time. And the options are either a 0, so it'll make a 10, or a 2, and that closes that. And if I close this bracket, you will notice that we have got a 31, then it's matched 01, and we obviously haven't done the rest of that yet. So all of the ones that start with 31 and any kind of month, except for these ones over here, so it doesn't have January in yet, will match. So now that we've got that, we're well on our way to getting this put together. The second part of this is that we need to match January and March and May and July as well in this particular part. So the first one is 0 and up until there. Then we're going to alternate, and then we've got 1 and 0 and 2. So now we're going to have another alternate. And inside this, we're going to have a bracket. And I'm going to close the bracket now so that you don't lose track of your brackets. And inside here, we are going to have various options. So we're going to have Jan, alternate, March, alternate, May, and December. So all of those basically tell us we can have 31st of 01, which is January, 31st Jan, and if we change one of these Jans to a March, for instance, it'll still match. Because we have a date that starts with 31, if we put in April in here, for instance, or April, it's not going to pull it out from here because we haven't said that April has 31 days. Now, just to go back to our visualizer again so that you have an idea, we have gone this route over here, and we are saying we're looking at months with 31 days. We've checked the separators. Then we've said either go from 01, so that is January, 03, all the way up until August, or go this way and start with a 1 and then go 0, so that is October, and then 1 and 2, which is obviously December. We've then gone the third route over here and said pick one of these months from this list, and now we are at this point over here. And we can say, look at reference 1, which is group 1, and we have said, basically, if you've got a / over there, you should theoretically have a / there too. It just makes sense. Okay, But we'll get to those just now. What I want to do is I want to finish the second part that comes down here. So this is, we're looking at two things. We're looking at months that have 29 days and months that have 30 days. So every month except for February in a leap year will have 29 and 30 days. So you can see that there. So let's now add this one to this. And I'm going to wrap this entire thing in a bracket. So I'm going to put a bracket from there through to there. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to name this. So I'm going to name this less than sign, greater than sign. Okay, and I'm going to say months with 31. And that's just so you can now see what the bracket is. And it starts with this light green and finishes with a light green over there. So this is called months with 31. Now I'm going to do an alternate. And I'm going to do the next one, and I'm going to say this is months with 29 and 30. Okay, so let's say we've got months with 29 days or 30 days, but let's put a bracket around this, and let's just name this and say months with 29 or 30, and that gives us this. So that is another one there, and close that bracket, and let's close that complete bracket over there. So now we're saying, if the month has got 29 or 30 days, what are we going to do? Well, we firstly need to get another. I'm going to grab that one from the first one. And what you'll notice, what you'll see is that it ends with a bracket. So now this bracket over here ends over there. So I'm going to put it inside here. So I'm going to put it there. So now let's see if this works. So what you've noticed over here is we've got 29/02, 29 of February, 30th of February. So far it's matching, but now we need to say what month it needs to match. So over here, we said that the month was any of these. So if I grab this whole thing again, and let's copy that, and I'm going to put that inside this bracket again. And this time it's saying months that have 29 or 30. So we've then got the split, the separator. It then starts with 0 and goes 1. It misses out February, because remember, these are the ones that go 29 and 30, so January, March, all the way through to December. So we can then say 0, 1, leave out 2, and then we can say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then under this will be 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so now obviously you can make this simpler. You could say, instead of 1, 3 like this, you could say 1, comma, it's gone on to the next line, and just come back to that line, 1, comma, 3 to 9, and then over here, we can say 0 to 2, like that. And what you'll notice is that these don't match anymore, because none of those will be in there, because remember, 0 and 1 comes, and 0 and 3, 0 and 2 doesn't. And then over here, we've got January, February, March. Let's now do another alternate. April, sorry, that was stupid. April, May, alternate, June, July, August, September, October, November, alternate, December. Okay, I just deleted that bracket by mistake. Okay, so now we will see that we have got the 31st are matching from this first part, and we don't have anything with this. So let's add another one here. Let's say the 30th of March, 2000, and let's say the 29th of April, 2000. So that all matches now. Okay, so what you see now is that we've got months with 31, months with 29 or 30, which has now done these two parts over here. We've got this one over here, which is February 29th during a leap year. And this very complicated thing over here is how to calculate a leap year. But let's go to the fourth one over here. And this is any months that are from 01 or 1, the first of the month, and they go all the way up to 28. So that should be every month. Okay, so this fourth option is now going to be another alternate. So we're going to say alternate, and we're going to open another bracket, and let's call this the same thing. Let's call it all months with 28. Okay, and let's just close that bracket. And then inside here, we now need to say what's going to happen. So we need to have all the numbers, all the dates that start with 0, 1, or 1, all the way up to the teen dates. So that's 11, 12, 13, all the way up to the 20s, all the way up to 28. Because remember, 29 and 30 are covered by this one, and 31 is covered by that one. First one is going to be the number 0, and that is optional. It's going from 1 to 9. So that is, if you put a 0 to 9 there, you can't have the 0 of May. It just doesn't make sense. So just be careful of that. So that's 1 to 9. Then the other alternate, the teen dates. So that is starts with a 1, and that goes from 0, so that's 10, all the way to 19. And the third alternate is that it starts with a 2, and it goes from 0, so that's 20, all the way to 8, which is 28. Perfect. So now that has got all of our starting dates. Okay, so that's all the first parts of the date. We now need to have our separator. So I'm going to grab the separator from here. That's the group over there. Copy that and dump that inside the bracket. I didn't select the whole thing, sorry. Let's just close that bracket there. Okay. So now what we need to do is we now need to say, okay, so here are the days first. Then we go separator. Now we need to have the months. And we can obviously represent the months as numbers or as 3-letter things. So I'm going to grab from here, which has got most of them. Just copy that and dump that inside here. So we have got the days first, then our separator over here. Then we've got this, so that it goes from 0. And now we can actually go from 1 all the way through to 9, because you don't have to worry about February anymore. 10, 11, and 12, so that's October, November, and December, so that is perfect. And then over here, all we have to do is we have to say, we have to add February in there, so it's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Perfect. So this over here is the second capturing group. This is the 7th, and this is the 11th. So if I want to say at the end of months with 31, I want to reference the second capturing group. So if I go all the way to the end over here and say, move our mouse, and say 2, then it's looking at this capturing group, which is the first one, and then it's looking at this captured group, which is the second one, and saying, whatever's inside here, make sure it's the same as that. And this is ones with 31. So let's look over here. Here's the one with 31. Here's a /, and there's a /. If I change this to a dash like that, you notice that the whole thing isn't matched now. If I take this and put it back into a /, the whole thing is matched. So that is the first one. Then under months with 29 and 30, this over here is the 7th capturing group. If I go all the way to the end and say, I want to look for the 7th, this is under all ones with 29 and 30. So there's 29, there's 30. So if I change this right now, it's completely captured. If I change that to a dash, the whole thing breaks. If I change that to a period, the whole thing breaks. If I change it to /, everything works perfectly. And then the last one over here, here's the 11th capturing group. If I go all the way to the end and say \11. So all of these basically can happen in any particular year. So any year, and we need to decide what year we're going to start from and what year we're going to end. Now, in the original thing, we decided that we're going to start from the year 1900, and we're going to go all the way up to the year 2007. So let's figure this out. And we're going to do it in each of these one at a time. So after we've got the / there, we're now going to do a year. And the year is going to be, let's put in brackets like that and close the brackets for the year. And this year is going to be anything from 1900 to 2007. Let's label this for myself, just so it's easy to see. And we're going to start with a 19 like that. And then you can have any number from 0 to 9, and then any number from 0 to 9. So that will give you 1900, 1901, 1999, and all of those are covered. Or, so an alternate there, starts with a 200, and then we can have any number that is from 0 to 7. So, let's now see how this works. We've got months with 31, so here it is. Then we are looking at the year 2000. So if I say I've got the year 2020 here, you notice the whole thing doesn't match. If I've got the year 1600, it doesn't match. If I've got anything like that, it won't match. Okay, so that finishes the year, and what we can do is we can grab this whole year, and that's why I normally label it, just so it's easy for me to see. And I'm going to dump it in the end of this one with the months of 29 and 30. And I call this year 2. And then I'm going to put it over here and dump it in there. And I'm going to call this year 3. So now what you'll see is that when we've sort of like played around and entered all these years, it's now messed around with all of our matchings. So right now this is matching 2. So this is still the second capturing group. But this is matching 7. And this capture group over here is the 8th capture group. This is the 8th, so I'm just going to change it to 8. And over here, the 11th capturing group, this is actually the 13th now. So let's change it to 13. Now, if you haven't been following from the beginning, you'll probably realize that this regex is a lot different from the one that we actually started with, that looks like this one over here. And we possibly might get to something that looks like that, but each time I do a regex, it looks a bit different based on the mood I'm in or the way I've explained it to people. And right now, this one is making a lot more sense to me than going through all of this. So in terms of this, let's now try and figure it out. So we've now got months of 31 days, months of 29 and 30, and all months of 28. We've added years to all of them. So let's just remove that. Now, we've got through all of these, and we have said the reference needs to go there, and we've got the years. So the last one we've got here, the 29th of February. So let's try and figure this out. So if I've got the year 2000, that is a leap year. If I've got 2004, that's leap, 2008. But then it starts going to 2012 and 2016 and 2020. Okay? But if we go backwards now and we say 1996, 1992, 1988. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to say, a bit smaller so that you can see. I'm going to try and continue this so that you can see. So it'll be 1980, 84, 1980, 1976, 1972, 1968. So if you look at this, if the number has an 8 there, which is even, and this is even, then it's got the numbers 0, 4, and 8. Let's try one more time here. So there'll be 1964, 1960, 1956, 1952, and 1948. So anything that's got an even number there, that's a 40, and an even number here has the last numbers of 0, 4, and 8. Any number that's got an odd number has 2 and 6. So what you'll see over here is I said if it's got 2, 4, 6, or 8 in that position, then the last position is going to have 0, 4, 8. And if it's got an odd number, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, then it's going to have a 2 and a 6. So that is how it works. So let's try and write this and see how this will work for us. Just making a new regex here and going to copy all of these across just so that we can see if this is going to work. So the year can start with either a 20 for all of these, or a 19 for all of those. So let's start with the 19 first. And say this is the first one. Then the second part is going to be all the even numbers. So if it has a 0, a 2, a 4, a 6, or an 8, we're going to do this first part. If it's got odd, it's going to be the second part. So if it's 2, 4, 6, or 8, what does it happen? What is it going to be looking for? Even numbers will give you 0, 4, or 8. So 0, 4, or 8. So you can see it's matched all of those ones that have got even numbers there. The second one, and I'll put this into a bracket, and I'll make an alternation, and I'm going to close the bracket just so I don't forget. The second one is going to have the odd numbers. So 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. I'm going to close that. And what does that have? Also, it has odd numbers, has 6 and 2, and that's it. So 2, 6, close that, and that looks perfect. So now we have got every single leap year from the 1900s put into that. We now need to find all the leap years in the 2000s up until 2007, which is what we discussed. So I'm going to do an alternation there and say the other option is that it's going to be 20, and it's going to start with 20. But we only want to go up to 2007, so it's actually going to start with 200. And because I don't actually have to think that much on this one, I can say, well, the last number can only be a 0, a 4, and an 8. And that is going to be all of it. But I don't even want the 8 because I want to go up to 2007. So those are the only two. So 2008 won't match, 2012, 16, and 20 all won't match. So this is actually what we are looking for in terms of February with leap years. Okay, so now we can do a next option here. So we've done months with 31, we've done months with 29 or 30, all months with 28, and I'm going to do a last one here. So it's going to be an alternation, and I'm going to name this alternation. Let's open a bracket, and let's name it. Let's also close the bracket there. And I'm going to say February leap year. We're going to match February, firstly, with a 29. Then we're going to have some sort of a separator. So copy that, put that in there. We're then going to have a month. And the month for February is either going to be 0 or 02. So that 0 is optional. Put that whole thing in a bracket. Close that bracket. And let's go inside there. And say an alternation is the other option is that it's going to have the word February. And then the last thing is that it's going to have exactly the same as this. So this is a capturing group, and this is the 18th capturing group. So I'm going to say \18. And then the last one is we're going to dump this whole thing in for the year. Open a bracket for that, put that in, and close that. So let's see if this will actually work now. And let's say the 29th of the second month of 2000, and it doesn't work. Now what you can see here is that my regex isn't working perfectly. And this will happen from time to time, and I'm kind of happy that's actually happened in this one. We now need to figure out why it's not working. And this is why I label things so well. So months with 31 and months with 29 and 30, because then I can break it down and actually figure out what's not working. So the way to do this is this. I'm going to grab everything after the months with 31 and just cut that out. And you will see that my months with 31 is working, and all of that, and the capturing group is number 2 still, and that is perfect, and that is all working. What I actually think I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a starting there, and I'm going to end with a $, which means that that should now be that thing completely. I'm then going to put I'm going to paste the other things I've just cut back in. This is still working, but let's see what else isn't. So I'm going to grab the rest of this. I'm going to cut that and just dump that into my notepad. And I'm going to cut the rest of that. So all I'll have left here is months with 29 or 30. Okay, so let's put that second part in there so that we don't lose it. So months with 29 and 30, nothing's working in this. And the reason why nothing's working right now is because this is saying that this is capturing group 8. And this is actually capturing group 3 right now. I'm just going to change that to 3 and see that it does work. Okay, so that is months with 29 or 30 days, and that matches both of those. Let's do 29/10 in here, and then the year 2000. Perfect. So that still matches. Okay, so let's now make sure that it starts at the beginning. So let's do a caret there and a $sign at the end of that. And just remember, before we put everything back, this is going to change back to the capture group of 8. Otherwise, the whole thing's not going to work. Okay, so we've now got months with 31, which starts at the beginning and ends at the end. Months with 29 or 30 starts at the beginning and ends at the end here. Then we've got the, let's make sure the alternation's still there. Then we've got all months with 28, which we're going to play with now. And then we've got the February in the leap year. So let's just grab all of this, cut that. And let's remove the February leap years and put that there. Perfect. Okay, so now we need to figure out all the ones that have got months that have 28. And this is not working completely. And if you look at these 3 down below here, they should all work completely. So let's try and figure out why this is not working. And one of the simplest ways to do this is actually to dump it into the visualizer. So if we go into here, I'm just going to duplicate this so we don't lose the original one. And I'll paste that in. And as we looked before, it doesn't like these labels. So let's remove that, delete that. And this year 3 it doesn't like. So let's delete that. Okay. Now, if we grab these, I'm just going to copy that and put that in here. It says it doesn't match those 3. So the reason why it doesn't match is if you look at this representation, it's saying that we've got one that comes in here and then it goes to the group 2. And the second one comes in here and it says, well, we're doing something up here and then it goes to the year. Well, it actually goes straight to the end. So the reason for this is because these aren't actually combined in brackets, and that's part of that. So if we look at this, it's going here and this needs to be combined in a bracket. So let's push that. And then all the way up until the end there, and that needs to be combined in a bracket. And then we've got the separators. Now, what you'll now notice is that this 13 over here, if I go and look over here at this capturing group, which is with the separators, needs to be the same as that one, which is the third one. So I'm going to take that and change it to 3. And now all of those match. And obviously we need to make this start at the beginning and end at the end again. And now we can dump everything back into there. Okay, and let's put the February in, which is this one. Let's double check all the capturing groups again. So this one's number 2, which is working. This one over here is number 8, so that's perfect. This one over here is 14th, so let's just update that one. And that one is now working. And then the final, the February one, is the 19th capturing group here, and let's just update that. The 19th. Perfect. So that actually looks quite clean. It's quite easy to read. It's quite easy to play around with, depending on how you want to use it. And the funny thing about regular expressions for me is, depending on how you actually use it, you actually start building them in different ways. And I find that I build regular expressions when I'm just working by myself in one way, and when I'm teaching it in a completely different way. So hopefully you actually can see it in both ways, and you can actually use it the one way that we started with at the beginning, and this is the second way at the end. So let's just actually copy this one last time and dump this into, okay, so that was our original. Let's dump that into here. And I'm just going to clean up these named ranges. Okay, and now that you look through it, you can actually see exactly how it's made. And it's very similar to the first one, but possibly even easier to read. I like the fact that we removed the February 29th from the thing, and it has that at the end. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Obviously, depending on what your needs are, you might want to use this first example, which had no non-capturing groups in, and then only a capturing group where we had the separators. So where's the separator? There. So that would be a capturing group. This would be a capturing group here. All the other ones are non-capturing groups. So that's why they got the question mark with the colon in there. So the last part over here, instead of referring to this as the second capturing group and doing that, if we name this, we can actually do it like this. Let's say that this is going to be called separator number 1. So instead of 2, it's going to say a G there, and then open and close less than or equal than signs, and say S1. And this will then say we are looking at the subpattern named S1, which is the named capture group over there. So now you don't have to worry about playing around with which is the first capture group or the second capture group. You can actually just name it, and that should work like that. Let's just finish updating all of these. S2. And this is going to be \G and S2. And then finally over here, this one is going to be S3. And this over here, instead of 14, it's going to be G and S3. Brilliant. So it still works. Still works, and it's now easier to read. And now if you play around with just pulling some of these things out, it should work perfectly. So I hope that was good. If you would like to see more regular expressions examples and learn more about regular expressions, please click on the link below for the Udemy course and sign up with us. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, and then I'll see you soon.